Masamune was a high school student, handsome and well-built. That morning, right after taking a shower, he stood in front of the mirror, admiring his own figure. He couldn't help but praise his own face and body until he realized that his younger sister, Chinatsu, was in his room. Chinatsu teased her brother, saying he was too narcissistic. Masamune denied it, insisting that he wasn't, and instead commented on how Chinatsu was already eating chips so early in the morning. He wondered why Chinatsu kept entering his room without permission, despite his repeated warnings. Chinatsu, on the other hand, was puzzled about why Masamune seemed to ignore their sibling bond ever since they had lived apart for a while. Masamune looked at an old photo of himself and swore that he would never again become the timid, weak boy he once was. Not long after, their mother, Kinyue, entered the room and told them she had already prepared breakfast. Every dish she made was packed with calories because she believed it would spark Masamune's appetite. But Masamune refused to eat. Kinyue immediately looked hurt, thinking that her son must hate her, especially now that they were living under the same roof again. Chinatsu suspected the real reason was because Masamune had already lost a lot of weight compared to before. Without touching the food, Masamune decided to leave for school. Instead, he chose to drink some milk, explaining that he just couldn't eat high-calorie food in the morning. At that time, his personal motto was simple. The most important thing was to be handsome because good-looking people were special. On his way to school, several female students turned their heads to look at him. Passing by the tennis courts, he paused for a moment to watch a few girls practicing. Suddenly, 3 of them started scolding an awkward-looking boy who they thought had been taking pictures of them. The boy nervously insisted that he had only been texting on his phone. One of the tennis players then recognized Masamune as the new transfer student from last week and invited him to join their practice. Masamune politely turned her down. More girls began to gather around, admiring how high his entrance exam scores were and how well he had played in sports. Hearing those compliments, Masamune smiled. He then praised the girls for practicing so early in the morning, which made their faces turn red, and they shouted excitedly after hearing his kind words. That moment made Masamune even more convinced that being handsome was the key to everything, and he felt confident that his plan would work out. When he arrived in front of the school gates, he noticed a crowd forming. Everyone was talking about how Shigeo had confessed his feelings to the so-called cruel princess. Among the students, Shigeo was seen as a cool upperclassman, and many believed that even the cruel princess would eventually accept him. Soon enough, she appeared on the school rooftop. Shigeo's excitement grew, and he called out to her with a nickname, comparing her to a shy Rapunzel. He asked her to give him an answer right there in front of everyone. The cruel princess smiled and purposely used a microphone so everyone could hear. She thanked Shigeo for his confession, but explained that she had asked one of her friends to look into his background. What she discovered shocked the crowd. She revealed that Shigeo had bought a certain comic book and secretly hid it inside one of his school textbooks. The students gasped. She continued by pointing out his habit of staring at girls' arms in ways that didn't seem respectful. On top of that, she even mentioned an online fantasy story Shigeo had written, where the main character just so happened to share his name. Hearing this, many of the female students quickly distanced themselves from him. Shigeo tried to defend himself, saying it was just a misunderstanding. The cruel princess didn't stop there. She even made fun of a mole on his chest, giving him an embarrassing nickname, and boldly wrote that nickname on a long banner for everyone to see. Shigeo's confidence collapsed, leaving him humiliated in front of the entire school. Masamune, watching the whole scene, realized how ruthless the cruel princess could be. Later, Masamune headed to his classroom. He thought that this school was truly intimidating, but he reminded himself that he couldn't be discouraged over something like that. His real challenge had only just begun. Suddenly, near the staircase, he accidentally caught sight of the cruel princess again, and their eyes met. Memories from his childhood came flooding back. He remembered a time when he had confessed his feelings to a girl, only to be rejected harshly and insulted. That painful moment had haunted him in his dreams ever since. Masamune woke up startled in class, surprising his classmates. Tae, the class representative, walked up to him and pointed out how soundly he had been sleeping. Masamune already knew who she was, and Tae was glad to see how quickly he was adapting to the new school. That was when Masamune realized something. Being handsome meant that no one scolded him, even when he fell asleep in class. Not long after, Kojuro brought some food for him. Masamune thanked her warmly. She had bought him bread stuffed with noodles, which looked like it had the same amount of calories as a full lunch. Masamune thought to himself that he would just do more sit-ups later at home. Kojuro admitted that she admired how Masamune stayed humble despite his good grades and athletic skills. She was a popular student herself, and in Masamune's eyes, she seemed like someone destined to be adored. According to Kojuro, there was another student in the school whose grades were just as good as his. Right at that moment, the cruel princess appeared with her attendant. She was looking for a boy named Akio, and turned to Masamune and asked if Akio was in their class. Not long after, Akio raised his hand. The so-called sadistic princess was named Aki. She walked up to him and read aloud the love letter that Akio had sent. The letter said that Akio had fallen in love when he saw Aki looking elegant during gym class. Aki then concluded that Akio must have enjoyed staring at her legs when she wore shorts. Without hesitation, she mocked him by giving him the nickname Pudding Prince and tore the letter to pieces right in front of him. Akio was deeply embarrassed and Aki left the classroom right after. Masamune was puzzled by Aki's behavior. Kojuro explained that Aki was one of the top students in their year and also very beautiful, though her personality was completely different from Masamune's. The rumor going around was that Aki despised boys and anyone who dared to approach her would be given an insulting nickname and rejected instantly. That was why she earned the title of the Sadistic Princess, and her real name was Adagaki Aki. Hearing that name, Masamune was shocked. Aki was the heiress of the Adagaki group. He quickly went outside to confirm it, and sure enough, he recognized her. He never expected to meet her this soon. During the lunch break, Aki sat with a group of girls. They offered her all kinds of snacks, while Masamune observed from a distance. Just as Kojuro had mentioned, Aki was always surrounded by many attendants. She acted kindly towards Sonoka, even fixing the bow on her hair that had gone slightly crooked. According to Kojuro, many girls admired Aki because she was bold and spoke her mind openly. Out of everyone, the one truly close to Aki was Yoshino. Masamune, who had been taking notes about everything related to Aki, asked Kojuro if he knew about Aki's likes, dislikes, or habits. Kojuro admitted that he did not know much, but he had heard that Aki always ate lunch alone. And indeed, after enjoying some snacks, Aki separated from Yoshino to look for a place to eat by herself. Masamune thought Aki was like a queen, surrounded by female students but always alone at lunchtime. This made him even more interested in finding out more about her. Kojuro suggested that Masamune should probably not get involved, but Masamune reassured her not to worry. He then hurried after Aki, but unfortunately, he lost track of her. He searched the library, the classroom halls, and even up in the trees, but Aki was nowhere to be found. Then Masamune spotted Yoshino walking quickly while glancing around cautiously. This made him suspicious. Yoshino checked her surroundings again before entering the sports equipment storage room. Masamune was curious about what she was doing there and decided to follow. Inside the storage room, Eki scolded Yoshino for taking too long to buy her a pork sandwich, saying she'd been kept waiting. Masamune felt relieved he had finally found her. But then, just as he was about to step closer, a spider dropped right in front of his face. Startled, Masamune screamed and ended up barging into the storage room. He quickly smiled and apologized, saying he had wandered into the area by accident. Aki, however, did not believe him so easily. She suspected that he had been deliberately looking for her. Masamune was surprised to see that Aki was having lunch in the sports equipment room, with a meal that looked more suited for a construction worker than a refined princess. Aki told him to leave immediately. Masamune mentioned that there were plenty of sporty girls who ate just as much, but then he was shocked to realize that Aki had not only one lunchbox but also the sandwich Yoshino had just bought. Embarrassed, Aki admitted that she would get too hungry if she only ate a regular portion. She also confessed that she was prone to hypoglycemia, which meant she needed to consume a lot of sugar, and she tried hard to make sure her stomach would not growl during class. Masamune decided to excuse himself, saying he had something else to do. Before he left, Aki asked for his name and warned him not to spread what he had seen. Masamune, however, felt that he had just discovered an important secret. From that day on, Masamune started greeting Aki more often, in the hallways when she was with friends and even in the library. During gym class, Kojuro mentioned that rumors were spreading around the school. People were saying that Masamune had grown close to Aki, and some even bet that the so-called sadistic princess would eventually fall for him. Masamune thought the truth was far from what his classmates imagined. In reality, Aki had become much harsher toward him, and he wondered how such rumors had even started. He believed no one would ever believe that a beautiful girl like Aki actually ate portions big enough for a laborer. One afternoon, Aki glanced out of her classroom window and sent Masamune a note telling him to go back to his cage. Just then, a ball thrown by Kojuro accidentally hit Masamune on the head. His friends worried and suggested that he go to the student infirmary, but Masamune assured them that he was fine. After school ended, Aki's friends said goodbye and left. Aki walked ahead while Yoshino stumbled behind carrying Aki's bag. Aki called out to Yoshino, asking her to buy some food because she felt like she was about to faint. Sonoka, in her usual blunt way, ordered Yoshino to hurry and get the food. Yoshino obeyed and ran down the street toward her shop. At that moment, Aki felt puzzled. She thought her lunch portion had been more than enough, yet it seemed her body was burning calories too quickly. She grew irritated because Yoshino was taking too long to come back. Suddenly, Akio showed up and asked whether Aki was going on a date with Masamune. Clearly upset, Akio yanked Aki's long hair and scolded her for tearing up the letter he gave her, while still accepting Masamune's letter. He even said that being handsome must feel good. Aki told him to let go, but Akio lashed out, saying Aki had always looked down on others. He then pulled a pair of scissors from his pocket and held them up threateningly. Aki could only close her eyes tightly, bracing herself. Luckily, Masamune appeared just in time. He rushed forward, freed Aki's hair, and grabbed the scissors with his hand, which caused his palm to bleed. Masamune had already suspected something like this might happen because of how sharp-tongued Aki could be. When Akio saw the blood dripping, he screamed in fear and ran away. Masamune quickly turned to Aki and asked if she was hurt. Instead, Aki asked him the same question back. Masamune assured her that he was fine and felt relieved that she was safe. However, as soon as he looked at the wound on his hand, the pain hit him all at once, making him want to cry out. Still, in a way, he felt it was worth it. Not only did he know Aki's secret now, but he had also saved her, which meant she might not treat him so harshly anymore, especially since her pride would never allow her to ignore the fact that he had helped her. Masamune suggested that Aki shouldn't always look so stern, saying a girl becomes beautiful when she smiles. Hearing that, Aki's cheeks turned red with embarrassment. Back when he was a child, Masamune had been an overweight boy with a cocky attitude, making him an easy target for his classmates' teasing. At that time, Aki had once been his savior, helping him when others picked on him. But one day, everything changed. When Masamune gave her flowers, she threw them away and told him she had never liked him, cruelly giving him the nickname Pig's Foot. That day left a scar in Masamune's heart, and he swore to get revenge. His plan was to make Aki fall in love with him, reveal his true identity, and then reject her in the most elegant way possible. Masamune proudly called this his dead or love strategy. He even laughed so loudly about it that his mother and little sister overheard. The next morning, Masamune headed to school as usual. Tae greeted him and noticed his hand wrapped in bandages. When she asked what happened, Masamune said it was just an injury from his own carelessness. Tae looked doubtful but didn't press further. Soon after, Masamune ran into Akio, who looked embarrassed and apologized for what happened the day before. Masamune told him not to take it too seriously. Tae, curious about the situation, asked what was really going on, but Masamune simply called it a secret, which made the girls around him squeal with excitement. Later, Kojuro met him at the lockers. When Masamune opened his locker, a letter slipped out. Kojuro teased him, saying it was probably a love letter. But when Masamune unfolded it, the words written inside were just Pig's Foot. A wave of unease hit him. Masamune started to wonder if Aki had already figured out who he really was. After finding a letter in his locker, Masamune became curious about who had actually sent it. He glanced at each girl in his class, which startled them. Masamune wondered if it might have been Aki, but he was not convinced she would do something like that since he believed Aki was the type who preferred to embarrass others in public at the right moment. That made him question who else could possibly know about his past. Seeing Masamune looking unsettled, Kojuro asked what was going on with him, which made Masamune briefly suspect if Kojuro might have been the one. Tat also asked why his face looked so tense, but Masamune brushed it off, saying he was fine. Suddenly, a student shouted about pork feet, which shocked Masamune. However, after listening closely, he realized they were only talking about food. Masamune hated remembering the darker parts of his past. Back then, his classmates had mocked him by giving him the nickname Pig's Feet. At that moment, some of his friends approached, assuming that he was not feeling well. Masamune thought they were kind only because they saw him now as handsome. Yet he feared that if they ever learned about who he used to be, they would turn on him and treat him the same way as before. He was determined not to let that happen. When class began, Masamune struggled to focus on the lesson. His teacher asked him to read the third paragraph, and as he did, tears suddenly rolled down his cheeks. He explained that it was because of the emotional story of the Hike clan in the textbook. His classmates assumed he was just extremely sensitive. Still, Masamune kept reading, silently vowing to uncover the truth about the mysterious letter. During break, Masamune worried that if Aki ever found out about his past, his entire plan for revenge would crumble. He had gone as far as living with his grandfather and even changing his last name. All those 8 years of hard work and determination would go to waste. His stress grew so heavy that he felt stomach pains. Later, he noticed students rushing to buy bread. It was the first time he had seen such chaos. Among them was Yoshino, whose small body was pushed around in the crowd until she fell, landing right in front of Masamune. He quickly helped her up. Yoshino said it felt like fate was always cruel to her, and that she had given up on ever buying bread again. She then handed Masamune a note with her order: 5 croquettes filled with spicy peppers and 4 pork sandwiches. Masamune pushed his way through the crowd and managed to buy everything on her list. Yoshino was deeply moved when he handed them over, saying it felt like something out of a dream. She even compared Masamune to a guardian spirit statue. As Yoshino was about to leave, Masamune followed, suspecting the bread was actually for Aki. Yoshino tried to get away, but Masamune stopped her, and she quickly apologized. Masamune teased her for a moment before reassuring her that he would not cause trouble and would explain everything to Aki himself. The two then went together to meet Aki. Seeing how Yoshino acted, Masamune thought she resembled Cinderella being ordered around by a strict stepmother. He knew how that felt since he had been bullied himself in the past. When they arrived, Aki scolded Yoshino for taking too long and making her starve. Yoshino kept apologizing as Aki called her slow and careless. Yoshino handed over the bread, and Aki immediately ate it with enthusiasm. Watching from the doorway, Masamune could not understand what part of Aki seemed like a princess. Because she ate too quickly, Aki ended up choking, which set Yoshino running off to find a drink. Masamune stepped inside and asked if Aki was alright, which startled her. She looked around for Yoshino, and Masamune explained that Yoshino had gone to buy tea for her. Aki kept eating and asked why Masamune had come. He said he just wanted to check on her. Masamune was surprised to learn that Aki had eaten a large lunch before having bread. Aki then asked about his injury, and Masamune admitted it still hurt a little when showered or changed clothes, even though in reality the pain was much worse. Hearing this, Aki said she had not meant to trouble him, which made Masamune happy. To him, it meant her pride was starting to soften and making his plan progress smoothly. That convinced him she was likely not the one who had sent the letter. Aki apologized, saying what happened the previous day was her mistake. Soon after, Yoshino returned but tripped and fell again, which embarrassed her. Aki quickly covered Masamune's eyes to keep him from looking, but in doing so, she accidentally poked him in the eye. Yoshino offered him the drink she had brought, which touched Masamune. Aki commented that Yoshino always acted humble and overly polite toward everyone, to the point that it became a bad habit. She advised Yoshino not to be so nice to everyone, saying it was natural for her to treat Aki kindly since she worked for her. Masamune then pointed out that Aki had sauce on her nose, which made her flustered. Masamune admitted he was not good at being kind to everyone. He gently touched Aki's cheek and told her it would be better for her to rely on him instead of always depending on Yoshino. After saying that, he left the storage room. Aki was furious at his behavior, while Masamune felt victorious, believing that Aki would eventually give in to him. He had drawn inspiration from a comic book by Chainatsu that he had read earlier. Masamune was convinced that his first step had been a success, and now his focus was to make Aki like him even more. He believed his love-or-nothing strategy was nearing its final stage. At that moment, Aki touched her cheek and called Masamune foolish. After school, Masamune thought it might be time to ask Aki for her phone number. While he was walking, his foot suddenly got caught in a rope trap, and he ended up hanging upside down. It turned out Yoshino had set the trap. She called Masamune by his old nickname and questioned if he was really planning to take revenge on Aki. Masamune was shocked that Yoshino knew the name he had been called when he was little, especially since he remembered none of his childhood friends being small enough to fit that description. That was when Masamune realized Yoshino was actually the one who lived with Aki. Yoshino cut the rope and Masamune fell, landing painfully. Yoshino explained that her ancestors had been serving the Adagaki family for generations, and her family had already been loyal for over 300 years. That meant Yoshino was not Aki's friend in the way Masamune imagined, but rather someone dedicated to serving her. To Masamune, Yoshino's kind and humble personality had seemed like a Cinderella story, but now it became clear that Aki was not a stepmother figure in Yoshino's life. She was the master Yoshino had always been expected to serve. Masamune felt tricked by Yoshino's demeanor and thought his plan for revenge might have to end there. He told her she was free to laugh at him, and he admitted he did not regret showing Aki what it felt like to be treated the way she had treated him. Surprisingly, Yoshino did not take issue with his plan and even offered to help him. The next day, Aki was surrounded by her friends Mary, Kikune, and Sonoka, who followed her almost like attendants. Mary suggested having a tea party after school, but Aki refused since she had cleaning duty that day. Kikune and Sonoka admired her sense of responsibility for not skipping her assigned task. From a distance, Masamune observed them while still questioning Yoshino's intentions. He was not sure whether he could trust her, worried that her offer might be a trap. Besides, since this was his revenge plan against Aki, he felt it was something he needed to see through on his own. Not long after, Tae appeared carrying a stack of papers. She called Masamune's name and reminded him he was heading the wrong way if he wanted to reach the lower classrooms. She even offered to draw him a map so he would not get lost again. Masamune thanked her and carried the stack of papers for her. Todd explained that it was her duty as class representative to help the new student. While they walked, Tae mentioned that the students had been talking about a barbecue party being planned in class. Masamune thought this might be the right chance to practice asking for someone's contact information. Until then, the only number saved in his phone was his mother's, and the idea of asking a girl for her contact felt overwhelming. He lost his nerve and hurried ahead to class instead. Once in the classroom, Masamune asked Kojuro if exchanging contacts with someone meant that person could see the rest of his contact list. Kojuro reassured him that was not the case. Still anxious, Masamune asked again to be sure, and Kojuro was surprised by how serious he was about such a small detail. Relieved that his list would remain private, Masamune started wondering about the perfect moment to ask Aki for her number without making it awkward. A little later, someone from another class announced that one student was missing from the cleaning duty rotation, and they needed a replacement until summer. Tat wanted to volunteer, but could not because she had club activities that day. Since Masamune was not yet part of a club, he offered to take the spot. After school, Masamune joined the cleaning duty. To him, this was a golden opportunity to be near Aki. He greeted her, but she ignored him. Assigned to clean the classroom windows, Masamune grew frustrated over the phone number issue. He worried that if people found out about his embarrassing past nickname, they would see him as a loser and no girl would want to be with him. For a moment, he began to think that making Aki fall for him might be nothing more than an impossible dream. At that moment, Tae approached him to apologize for giving him extra trouble. Masamune brushed it off and told her not to feel guilty, but Tae admitted she often caused others problems. She compared herself to Masamune, who always seemed willing to help others without complaint. Masamune realized this might be his chance, and he suspected Ta had purposely waited until he was alone. Ta commented that the barbecue party would probably be fun, but suggested that going to the movies together might be even better. Masamune's imagination ran away with him. He pictured sitting next to Ta in a theater, their hands brushing against each other, watching a horror film that might lead her to grab his arm in fear, and afterward heading to a cafe to talk about the movie, something that felt very much like a date. The thought made his face turn red, and for a moment, he almost forgot about his original plan. Masamune had not said anything yet, but Ta noticed that he was busy and quickly apologized for asking him out of the blue. After Ta left, Masamune began to wonder if maybe he was becoming popular. He felt genuinely thankful to Ta for boosting his confidence. Suddenly, Aki showed up, saying that she was looking for a new bucket. Masamune felt extremely embarrassed since his face was still showing how happy he had been. Aki again asked if Tae was even part of the committee. Masamune admitted that Tae was only talking with him earlier, but it seemed like Aki had overheard their conversation. She pointed out that Masamune was lucky because he seemed popular. Masamune smiled and suspected that Aki might have sounded a little jealous, since her voice carried a lot of emotion. He said it would be pointless to date someone he did not truly like. Aki asked him which girl he actually wanted. Masamune boldly admitted that he wanted to date her and made it clear that he wanted her to be his girlfriend. Aki smiled and thanked him, which Masamune interpreted as her accepting his feelings. Excited, he asked for her contact and Aki agreed. Masamune could hardly believe it was that easy, and his confidence grew even stronger. However, Aki explained that her phone was being repaired at the moment and promised to give it to him during the next cleaning duty. Masamune then suggested that they meet again at the same time in that classroom. A week later, Aki never showed up at the promised place. Masamune grew bored from waiting until he noticed a letter near the blackboard. When he opened it, he found a clue that led him to check inside the teacher's desk drawer. Inside, he found an origami with another clue pointing to the broom closet. He quickly opened the broom closet and found yet another note leading him to the desk in the back. When he followed the instructions, he found a clue inside a cage. After opening it and being startled by the animals inside, he discovered a final note telling him to return to where it all started. Looking out the window, Masamune saw Aki holding up a rolled piece of paper, revealing that she was rejecting him. She smiled and walked away. Seeing this, Masamune grew upset because he realized Aki had been toying with him. Just then, Yoshino appeared and commented that he was simply unlucky. Yoshino explained that she was actually there to take Aki's place for cleaning duty. Masamune told her she could laugh at him if she wanted, but Yoshino calmly said that he was too naive. If he had trusted her from the start, she could have given him Aki's contact and he might have even been able to go on a date with her. Yoshino then wrote her own contact into Masamune's phone.